Hello everyone! Welcome back to Reading Through the Generations. I hope you're all doing well and reading fantastic books. I have a book tag for you this week. This is called the Places You Will Go. This is an original tag created by Gareth from Books, Songs, and Other Magic. So Gareth has been inspired by his own plans to travel and has created two different paths. There's a bookish path or there's a life path, and he encourages all of us to answer both sets of prompts. So the first bookish prompt is, what's the first place you go to in a bookstore? Well, it depends on what bookstore it is, if it's a secondhand used bookstore, if I've never been there before. I know my most favorite local indie bookstore is one that outside the entrance they have this enormous book cart that they just fill with bargain books, and it's updated every couple days. So when I'm in that part of town, that's usually where I tend to go to first because I love a good bargain. I know usually when I go book shopping, I have a loved one in mind, and I tend to know what their taste in books are, so I'll gravitate toward that section of the store. Otherwise, I love secondhand bookstores, so usually what I'll do is I'll look at their backlist works and see if they have any of my favorite authors on hand. Or I love checking out their stationery, if they have a stationery section, the children's book section, and of course cookbooks. The life prompt is, what is the biggest life decision you've made that has impacted your life? The most recent life decision I've made is getting ducklings. We got 3 blue runner ducklings about 5 weeks ago, and it's been a lot of work, but it's been a fun and welcome distraction. The second bookish prompt is, too smart to go down any not so good street. What did you used to read that you don't read anymore? That would be peer-reviewed journals. I know in university that was primarily what was assigned to us. I used the database JSTOR a lot, pretty much every day, and that's something that I haven't really even thought about it. I know there are online websites that have articles. Usually you have to have a subscription to them, but yeah, that's something I need to look into more, especially from my public library, what kind of databases they have. It would be perfect for Shorty September, which is, I can't believe it, coming up pretty soon. So that would be something that I don't really read anymore. The second life prompt is, what have you learned either as a hobby or an education that you value the most? Well, a hobby of mine that I got really serious about is playing the ukulele. The ukulele, I've always had it, but I've never I've just occasionally, played, and Cynthia Lynn, who is a musician and singer and songwriter, she has a YouTube channel where she instructs you on how to play songs, and she, every spring, has this play-along, and this is the first year I participated in it, so it's been really challenging but really fun just to play every day, and you set up your own goals. And my goal this year was to extend my chord vocabulary, and I have learned a few songs, and my island strum still needs some work, but it's been a lot of fun. The third bookish prompt is, you'll be seeing great sights. Pick a book with a beautiful cover. Alright, so I've been getting my June TBR together, and for Caribathon this year, I want to read Hurricane Child. I'm just drawn to the soulful cover of this book, and I think it's a coming of age story by Karen Callender, which those are some of my most favorite stories to read. And it says, 12-year-old Caroline has had her share of bad luck lately, but when a new student arrives, Caroline believes her luck is turning around. Kalinda soon becomes Caroline's first friend. Oh gosh. Okay, well, I love books about female friendship and love, and I just, oh gosh, I'm gonna really enjoy this one. The prompt is, what is the most beautiful place that you've visited? A place that comes to mind is the Van Dusen Botanical Gardens up in Vancouver, British Columbia. I went there with my mom and sister, gosh, almost a decade ago, and oh my gosh, if you're ever in that area, you've got to visit it. It is amazing. Everywhere you looked, you felt as if you were in a Monet painting. It was spectacular. I forget how many acres it is. It's got to be over 50, but there were thousands upon thousands of different plants from all around the world. There were native ones, and it was just stunning. There's rivers, there's waterfalls, you see the mountains in the distance. Yeah, they have giant sequoias, and something that we do when we travel together is we try to visit mazes from all across the world, and the Van Dusen Botanical Gardens, they have a maze, and it's glorious. I highly, highly recommend going there. Next prompt is, you'll be best of the best. What do you feel confident that you know a lot about with regard to books? Well, I wouldn't, let's see. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily confident about any particular subject, but when it comes to a topic that I'm most familiar with, just because I've been reading about it ever since my childhood, is probably Philippine mythology or folk tales in general. That's something that I love reading about, and one of my studies in university was anthropology, and so that would be something that I'm familiar with. And then the life prompt is, what would be your specialist subject on Mastermind? I would probably say anything to do with music. I don't watch Mastermind, but one game show that I love is Richard Osman's House of Games, and there's probably 25 different games for that whole show, probably even more, but there's one game that involves music where they play 3 seconds of a song, a random song, and I recognize the name of the song. So yeah, I love music, and I think when it comes to a specialist subject, it would have to be that one. The next prompt is, except when you don't. What kinds of books do you feel that you don't relate to? There's only been one book that was an unpleasant reading experience. That was assigned for one of my literature classes. We were assigned to read Fight Club. I don't even remember who wrote that book. It was such an unpleasant reading experience. I guess just the amount of violence, and it doesn't speak to me. I don't like reading about that. The life prompt is, what is something you've stopped doing or that you've given up on? Well, going back to studies, something I studied back in the day was Russian literature and speaking Russian, and that's sort of been something that I've neglected over the years, unfortunately. I had an uncle and auntie who, they would travel there, and my uncle was a professor of Russian, and they're no longer with me, so it's just something that has fallen. I don't keep up with it, unfortunately. So the next prompt is The Waiting Place. Name a book you're excited to read that's on your TBR. Well, Sue Jackson has launched her annual Big Book Summer, and for that I'm really anticipating reading Cordelia's Honor by Lois McMaster Bujold. And this is a book that my partner and his best friend have been urging me to read, and it sounds like it's a real interesting take on the science fiction genre, which I don't read much of. Lois is a geneticist, so having that scientific background really makes for an interesting approach to her style of storytelling. Life prompt is, what in general are you looking forward to the most this year? Well, I too am excited for some traveling that I'll be doing this autumn with my sister. Both of us have on our bucket list to visit all the state national parks, and so we'll be going to the Great Basin National Park and Crater Lake National Park. So I'm really, really excited for that. Thank you so much for watching and listening to all my answers for this Oh, the Places You'll Go book tag. If you're watching and you'd like to do this one yourself, please consider yourself tagged, and I'll see you next time. Take good care. Bye-bye.